Loops, and today I'm going to show you how to make the Grayson crochet bucket hat. I use Lion Brand's Rewind tape yarn for this pattern and a 5mm crochet hook. You would also want a pair of scissors, obviously, and possibly a darning needle to weave in your end. This hat can be made in 4 different sizes: adult, child, there's a baby size, and an itty bitty doll size for those of you who have kiddos that love to dress their dolls up to match them. It is worked in the round. It is worked continuously from the top down. I've broken the instructions down into 3 different sections: the top of the hat, the body of the hat, and then the brim of the hat. So I'll be going over how to create this in this video tutorial. You can find the full written instructions for free on my blog, www.lakesideloops.com. You can also purchase a downloadable, printable, ad-free version of the pattern from Etsy or Ravelry. The links will be in the description of this video. And this video tutorial will go over any of the tricky parts of the pattern, anything that you might have questions about. It's not a full video tutorial. For the full instructions, you do need to either go to my website for the free version or Etsy or Ravelry. Okay, so as I said, I used Lion Brand's Rewind tape yarn for this. I used the color Elm, this lighter tan color here. It's like a gray beige. But I also love this color, which is what I'm going to be using for the video tutorial, Citronella. It just reminds me of like raffia yarn. And this gives the look of raffia, but it's actually really, really soft. So it's easy on the hands. The hat is very lightweight, very comfortable. My kids are in love. And this is the cute little doll size that would fit like an 18-inch doll, like an American Girl doll. Or in Canada, we've got like the Journey Girls or the My Life dolls, any of those dolls. So I'm going to be making this size up for the video tutorial. Again, the full instructions with all the different size beginning chains and rounds are on the blog. So we're going to begin with a chain of 2. And I already have a knot here in my yarn. So chain 2, just like this, 1, 2. Now we're going to work 6 single crochets into the second chain from the hook. So not this first chain, but this second chain, which is the very first one we made. It'll be right next to your knot. We're going to go into that chain and we're going to work 6 single crochets. This pattern is very beginner friendly. If you know how to work in the round and work a single crochet, this pattern is for you. Now I am using a smaller hook than what this yarn calls for. This is more of like a bulkier yarn. It's like a flat tape yarn. It's not particularly thick, but because of the width, it is a little bit bulky. I wanted to use a smaller hook though, so that the hat would be more sturdy. If I had used a larger hook, the hat would be a little more flimsy. By using a smaller hook with this thicker yarn, it creates a little more structure. So 6 single crochets into this chain, and it will start to, you will see you're forced to kind of work in a circle here. So you can see my stitches are kind of creating this circle, and I'll eventually end up right next to where I started. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Now the join on this pattern, so how I finish every round, is a little bit unique. I'm trying to get my join as invisible as possible. So right here is where I joined on this hat, but it's not super noticeable, and here's why. Every time I join the end of my round, I create a really, really, really tight slip stitch into the first stitch. This one's going to be a little tricky, into the first stitch I made in that round. So really, really tight. I'm really pulling on the yarn to create as tight as possible a slip stitch. And then my beginning chain for my next round, again, is going to be really, really tiny and tight. As tiny and tight as I can make it. And that's going to help make our join as invisible as possible. So after I make that really tight chain 1, I'm on round 2 now. I'm going to loosen my yarn up and go back to regular stitches. So the first thing I'm going to do is right into that same stitch where I joined my last round, I'm going to work 2 single crochets. So 1, 2. And then in each stitch around, I'm going to work 2 single crochets. All right, so if you're new to crochet, I skipped ahead here, you may want to put a stitch marker in your very first single crochet that you make in the round, and that will help you identify where you're joining your round at the end and also kind of when to stop. So I've created 12 single crochets. This is the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now again, I'm going to really tightly slip stitch into this first stitch. As tight as I can, and then a really tight chain 1 to start my next round. And again, I'm going to work my first stitches into that same stitch where I just joined, right into here. So for round 3, we are going to single crochet into the same stitch, just like that, and then 2 single crochets into the next stitch. And we're going to be working that all the way around until we join again. So we're just going to continue to work into the round, increasing this flat circle until we have completed, depends on which size you're making, but for the doll size, we're going to complete 7 rounds. So I'm going to skip ahead and I'll come back to you once I've done that. All right, so as I've said, I've skipped ahead here. I've completed 7 rounds of the doll size hat. If you were making a different size, you definitely need to go to my website, even for the doll size, to get the written instructions. This video tutorial is just bits and pieces to help you with those written instructions. So I have completed the top of the hat. Now we're going to skip and work on the body of the hat. So these rounds there are no increases, so the stitch count is the same for every round, and we're just getting the hat to go from increasing out to going down, straight down on the sides. I don't know if you can see here, there's a little bit of a detail to sort of separate the 2 sections, and this is achieved by working this first round of the body into the back loop only, and I will show you what that looks like. So for round 1 of the body of the hat, I've chained 1 already. Now all of my stitches are going to be single crochet, and they're going to be worked in the back loop only, or BLO if you're looking at the written pattern. So when you look at the crochet stitches, you'll see there's a loop here and a loop here. This is the front loop, this is the back loop. So normally when we're working stitches, we work into both of those, or I guess I'm working into the stitch here, we work into both of those loops, but for this round, we're only going to be working into the back loop. So instead of going into here, I'm going to go into here, and I'm going to work my first single crochet, and then same. So instead of going into both of these loops, see I have 2 loops on my hook, I'm only going to be going into that back loop the whole way around this round. And again, no increases, so there will be no stitches where we're working 2 single crochets into the same stitch. And by doing that, do you see this little seam that we're creating here, this little detail? And because we're not doing any increases, our round is eventually going to start going down the side like this. It might not look like it the first couple of rounds, but after you get going, you'll see that you probably will actually have it looking kind of like this at first, just the way we tend to work, and then it will slowly, when you flip the top out like that, will look like this. So we're working around all of these rounds here. I also wanted to quickly touch on when you are working the top of the hat, you will see after about round 5, the increases, so the spaces where you're doing the 2 single crochets, I'll start to kind of stagger them a bit more. And it might seem like I'm overcomplicating the pattern, but the reason I do that is so that you end up with a circle. You can see here on the bigger size, I have a circle, not a hexagon, because if I continue to put the increases in the same position, you would eventually have these angular edges all the way around the pattern where the increases all happen at the same point. Because I'm staggering them in the later rounds, it creates more of a rounded edge around the top of the hat, just if you were wondering. All right, so I'm at the end of round 1 of the body of the hat, and I just wanted to show you the join. So only this first round was worked into the back loop only. All of the rest of the rounds for the body of the hat will be worked into the stitch. So when I finish this round, I'm going to slip stitch into both loops here on my first, stitch. Nice tight slip stitch, and then a very tight chain 1 to begin my next round. And again, this time we're working into both loops, just a regular old single crochet into both loops all the way around the hat. And just a note on sizing or how this hat fits. This is meant to be like a looser fitting hat. It's not meant to sit snugly on your head. It's meant to be a bit loose to get that like true bucket hat look. So some of you may not love that, and if that's the case, I would recommend just making a smaller size, like following the instructions for a smaller size, and then you can always add an extra round or two either in the body or in the brim to make it the length that you want if you're an adult, you know, making up the child size hat, for example. All right, so I've skipped ahead here again, and I finished the body of my doll size hat, and now we're going to move on to the brim of the hat. So I just wanted to go back and show you, like I said, these are all just regular single crochets into the stitch. There's no increasing. So your hat went from a circle to going down, straight down. And you can see this little detail here was where we did the back loop only, which is what we're going to be doing for the brim. So where's my little, you'll see on this finished hat, the brim has that same detail. It looks like a seam on the brim. And we're going to go back to doing increases because we were going straight down, and now we want to be working out a little bit to create this sort of shaded brim of a hat. So for round 1, we are going to chain 1, which I've already done, and you're going to single crochet in the back loop of the same stitch, so just the same thing we've been doing all along. This first one's a little tricky to get into, but back loop only, single crochet, and then single crochet in the back loop of, because I'm doing the doll size, the next 5 stitches. So into just this back loop, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we're going to do what's called an increase. So we're going to do 2 single crochets into the same stitch. And again, we're only working into the back loop. So 1, 2. And then we're going to continue on as it says in the pattern. And we're creating this little increase for our brim. All right, so I finished the brim of my itty bitty doll hat, and it is now complete. As you can see, there's a slight increase here where the brim is. The top is pretty much flat, but when you wear it, it might curve a little bit like that. And I just love how this turned out. If you have any questions, please let me know. I would love if you would tag me in the pictures of your finished hats. It's at Lakeside Loops is my handle on social media. I can't wait to see what you do with this pattern. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope this video tutorial helped.